Human trafficking has been around for a very long time. Unfortunately, human slavery is still very real in countries around the globe. It's also behind-the-scenes reality that seems to appear at major sporting events around the world as well. For example, the Super Bowl or the Olympics. We're joined now by Nita Bells, Executive Director of the nonprofit In Our Backyard and also author of the same group, In Our Backyard. Nita, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Hal.
Now, Nita, you and your team actually traveled to Minnesota for this year's Super Bowl, and this isn't your first Super Bowl party, is it?
No, this is the 9th year that we've done anti-human trafficking work surrounding Super Bowl, and it's no party for us. We go and we work, but we're so blessed and grateful to be able to do it because it works.
Did you in fact see an increase of sex trafficking taking place in and around the Super Bowl itself, the big party?
Yes, absolutely. It happens leading up to many events, yes.
So what did you try and do at the Super Bowl to help the victims of sex trafficking in and around Minnesota there?
We do a couple of major things. We have a major event in the city of the Super Bowl a week and a day prior to Super Bowl, and we invite counties, DAs, governors, mayors, just anybody, and law enforcement, other nonprofits, government agencies, and we all come together. We do what's called a Human Trafficking 101, so people know about human trafficking, and we invite the public, the general public, some of who have never heard of human trafficking before. They come in, we have the event, and then we send them out to convenience stores surrounding the area, to pre-mapped convenience stores. They have missing children's books that contain photos of children that are missing and may be found there being human trafficked. 1 in 3 children who have gone missing will be lured towards trafficking within 48 hours of the time they go missing, which is why we feature the missing children. We also have a lot of human trafficking information that go into convenience stores. We have a program called Convenience Stores Against Trafficking. So they're trained to see what it looks like, and they have freedom stickers in their restroom, and the general public gets to be a part of the solution.
So I understand some girls were actually saved from being human trafficked at this year's Super Bowl. Tell me a bit about that.
There were several victims of human trafficking who were recovered in police stings, and so they are then given the opportunity to get services, to get help that they need in order to get out, which isn't an easy feat.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious as well. How many of those girls, they're recovered, they're given options, but then they end up back in the streets anyway? What percentages are you seeing?
Yeah, they say that domestic violence and human trafficking are related, that human trafficking is like domestic violence on steroids. And in a situation of domestic violence, they say that they'll go back 7 times before they actually get out. Human trafficking is domestic violence on steroids. So who knows how many times they get recovered, go back in until they finally get out. And hopefully they're not killed in the meantime.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, Nita, are there certain countries where we see higher rates of human trafficking, maybe some of the poorer nations, as opposed to maybe Canada and the United States?
Yeah, I would say India is probably the highest incidence of human trafficking, and that's labor and sex trafficking, which we have here in the United States and Canada as well, labor and sex trafficking. What we talk about and what we see more in the United States and Canada is sex trafficking, but the labor trafficking is happening as well.
Now, who are the people who are actually going out and paying to have sex with another human being? Is it like a lot of married men, business people just getting together? And how do they even justify this?
Yeah, about 15% of the male population buys sex regularly. We call them frequent flyers. They are going online primarily and booking a date and going out and paying for sex. What kind of men are they? They are lawyers, doctors, police officers. They are teachers. They are counselors. They are any number of professions, plumbers, electricians, any kind of occupation can do this and does do this. One of the common denominators is they have to have the money to buy. So it's usually somebody with an education. More often than not, it's somebody who is married or in a relationship.
So, Nita, what kinds of girls and even boys get involved in prostitution and why?
So we like to call it sex trafficking because it's a forced prostitution. And we try not to call people names. And so to call them a prostitute is calling them a name. So we really try not to do that. But any type of child, any type of adult can get involved in sex trafficking, becoming a victim of human trafficking. The troubled child is going to have more incidents. What happens is that the trafficker looks for a vulnerability. Once they see that vulnerability, they capitalize on it and they go after the child or the adult.
So, maybe drugs, they can use that as a controlling way as well for a lot of these young people?
Yeah, drugs can be a vulnerability. Somebody who just is mad at their mom can be a vulnerability because that trafficker will come in and say, I can't believe she treated you that way. I can't believe she did that. Come and hang out with me. We'll have fun. And we won't have a lot of rules. We'll have fun. You can stay out as late as you want. We can party if we want to. The first chapter of my book, I talk about a young girl we call Sarah. And she came from a nice Christian home, parents' marriage intact. She was a straight A student. But what happened is while she was at school, she met somebody there, another girl who was recruiting for a trafficker. And she recruited Sarah, and it started out small. And the next thing you know, Sarah was being trafficked. And 3 months after the time she met this other girl, she went missing.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. What ages are we talking about with a lot of these young people who are human trafficked? How young?
The average age of entry is 12 to 14 for girls and 11 to 13 for boys.
So, how effective are exit programs to help get a lot of the girls and maybe even boys off the street and back into living a healthier and safer lifestyle?
And you keep mentioning boys, and I really don't want to overlook that. That's really important. There is a home now for boys that are getting out of sex trafficking. It looks different than the girl sex trafficking, but they're both trafficked. And the homes, I would like to say, yes, absolutely, they're wonderful, but I have to honestly say people are still learning how to do these homes. We don't really have best practices. Until the year 2000, human trafficking wasn't even a crime in the United States. We prosecuted it under indentured servitude, forced prostitution, the Mann Act. But in 2000, we came up with the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And that is when we first began talking about it. Really, I started in 2006 doing the work, and most people didn't even know what human trafficking was. Now, here we are, 2018, and we've got a lot to be grateful for because people like you are doing shows about this very important topic. So we're learning. It's still in the learning stages.
Yeah, it's an education process, absolutely. Nita, now, sex trafficking won't likely disappear anytime soon, but is there a way we can reduce the demand for it? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we got to make it hard to be a sex buyer. And we don't call them Johns, just like we don't call the victims prostitutes. We don't call them Johns. We call them sex buyers because that's exactly what they are. And there's a lot of nice people named John. And so let's call them what they are, sex buyers. And then, so we've got to make it tough on them. We've got to make it hard to continue to be a sex buyer. And the John schools also are helping because they are able to help these men who are buying sex see that really this young woman or child is not doing it because she wants to. She's doing it because she's being forced and because she's been coerced. And and also learning what can happen to them. They can go to jail for a long time. Their family can suffer. We had a person that was arrested in Minnesota. He had a child in high school. And so he's buying a child or trying to buy a child, and it was a police sting, so there really was no child. But he was trying to buy a child within a year's age of his own daughter. And so we've got to make it not gratuitous for them.
So do tougher consequences for sex buyers reduce the demand, and maybe schools for sex buyers to educate them so this never happens again? Maybe they can preach to others. Does that really help too?
It really does help. Yes, both of those things help. As you mentioned, we've got a long ways to go, but yes, both of those things help. And in this battle, everything that helps, we want to do it.
Now, human trafficking can really seem like a big issue that the average person feels powerless, that they can't do anything about it. But do you believe we all can play a part? And what can even our viewers do who are watching our program right now?
Yeah. Everyone can play a part. The first thing they can do is talk about this. You and I are talking about it. That's all the traffickers ask, is that we not talk about it. Then they can continue doing their crime. The second thing, if somebody wants to, they can get on our website, inourbackyard.org, and become a Freedom Sticker hero. Freedom Stickers were put together here in 2011. I put those together as a result of being a survivor of domestic violence and knowing that the only place a person who's suffering that is safe is inside a restroom stall. And so that's where the Freedom Stickers go. Anyone in the United States can be a Freedom Sticker hero. They just have to get on our website, find those Freedom Stickers, sign the releases, and go out and ask permission, put them in the public restrooms.
And what advice would you give for parents who may be a little concerned that their child may be the victim of being human trafficked or even being recruited? Like you mentioned, that other young woman who was recruiting girls right at high school.
Right.
What are some of the signs to watch out for, the warning signs?
Yeah, I would say be in touch with your child. We've got a whole page on our website, how to keep your child safe from human trafficking. And the main thing is to be in touch, know their social media, have their passwords, and really keep in touch there. Because I can tell you, the mothers of survivors that I know wish they had.
Nita Bells, Executive Director of the nonprofit In Our Backyard, thanks a lot for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.